Charlie Baker, and I have the distinct and unique pleasure of introducing one of my former bosses tonight, Governor Bill Weld. But I'm going to start by talking about another one of my former bosses. For those of you who don't know my whole career history, and I forgive you for not knowing that, I started with Pete Peters. I met Pete Peters in the summer of 1988, when Pete was 75 years old. A friend of mine called me up and said, there's this gentleman, he didn't tell me he was 75 years old, just told me there was this gentleman who wanted to start a think tank in Massachusetts that would focus on public policy issues and come at them from what was referred to then as a free market point of view. So I scheduled an appointment over the phone with this gentleman. I went to see him, and I met Pete, and I was like 32 at the time, and full of piss and vinegar of one sort or another. And I looked at this 75-year-old guy, and I said, how long are you planning to stay in this camp? And no joke, Pete looked at me and he said, took us 75 years to get into this mess. It'll take 75 to get out. You might as well start today. And I had the unique and wonderful opportunity to spend a few years with him helping to grow and build Pioneer Institute. And along the way, the Better Government competition was born. Now, for those of you who know anything about Pete Peters, no one believed more than he did in the power of competition. Pete believed that everybody's best would always come to the fore when they had an opportunity to prove that they could do better something than somebody else. And it's been wonderful to watch this event, this institution, the Better Government competition, year after year after year, produce study after study and report after report that some of us who had a chance to work in the public sector could then take and turn into reality. Let me tell you one other story about Pete. I said to Pete one time that I was thinking about going to work for Bill Weld when Bill Weld got elected governor. And Pete kind of gave me that look of his, which those of you who know exactly what I mean, which is it's semi-disapproval, but he's not willing to just say he disapproves. And I said, look, Pete, this is my opportunity to take all the stuff you and I have been talking about and try and turn it into something real. He said, you know, Charlie, politicians, they just see which direction the parade's going, grab a flag, and run to the front. I want to be the guy who figures out where the parade's actually going to go. And I said, that idea is just way too big for me, Pete. I'm going to go spend some time working for Bill. Which brings me to the great Bill Weld. Bill Weld was in many respects the most interesting public official I've certainly seen in my lifetime, for two reasons. The first I actually got from my father, who met him one time, and afterwards he said, you know, he's a lot different than a lot of politicians. So, yeah, Dad, say more. And he said, his receiver works at least as well and maybe better than his transmitter. Bill Weld listens. One of his great strengths as an elected official was Bill never felt that at the end of the day, I apologize to those of you who heard that too many times during the course of the campaign, Bill was never one of those guys who felt he had to be the guy who had the last word in the room. Most of the time, he was interested in hearing what other people had to say. If I had a nickel for every time I sat in one of those meetings in his office and somebody would be complaining about some great idea that was swooping in from the outside that we weren't part of and all the rest, and Bill would sort of put his glasses down like this and look out at all of us and he'd say, I don't much care whose good idea it is. A good idea is just a good idea, and we should grab it and we'll make it our own. And my other Bill Weld story is the morning after the election, the last one, which didn't quite work out the way I was hoping it would. I got an email from Bill. And the email in the subject matter line said, "Congratulations." And I've known Bill a long time, and I looked to see if that thing was like time dated at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. And it wasn't. It was after I was sure he'd pretty much gotten up. And it said, "You got more than twice as many votes as I got the first time I ran Sept." That's a guy who believes in being optimistic and positive and always seeing the best in every opportunity. And that's because Bill, like Pete Peters and like Pioneer Institute and like many of the people here tonight, are all about ideas. Ideas are not partisan. Good ideas are good ideas, and it doesn't matter where they come from. Smart people will take good ideas and turn them into policy and turn them into program to do good things for the communities they live in and the people that they serve. In my humble opinion, no one is better at taking a good idea and turning it into a policy and a program than the next speaker tonight, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld.